Three, two, one. We're live. Hello, everyone. Stepping up with another video on New Year celebration. So, without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Yeah. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Right? Right. Yeah. Uh, anyways, let's see what videos we can watch. First one. We'll see.
Believe it or not, I will draw the person you will marry. One of my clients asked for a refund. She thought the man I sketched looked like her neighbor, but it turned out he was her soulmate.
Now, this is the tier of men that you'll start seeing women thirsting over them in the comments.
What?
Like what happened with Luigi Mangione, who also scored.
Whoa.
If you've ever wondered how attractive you are facially, this video will give you a realistic idea on where you land on the look scale.
Right.
The main point behind this video is that physical attractiveness is largely objective.
All right.
Think of facial symmetry, bone structure, proportions, leanness, and how they influence your looks.
Right.
So I've designed this skill to assess that physical attractiveness and find out where you land on that scale. For every score out of 10, I will provide a few faces, and I'll try to include different ethnicities as well, because an 8 out of 10 Northern European man obviously looks very different from an 8 out of 10 sub-Saharan African man. And with each rating, I'll also provide a brief explanation. So without further ado, let's start with the 0 out of 10s. The bottom 0.001% or even lower. So most people in this category are either suffering from some kind of medical condition
Yes.
or had an accident. So of course they deserve our sympathy. But in terms of facial attractiveness, they land at the very bottom.
Right,
The
right.
first example I've got lined up for this category is Nathan Kahina, if I pronounce his name correctly. Even without explanation, I think people understand why this is what's considered a 0 out of 10. With his face, he even makes babies cry.
I love messing with kids.
As we know, babies stare longer at attractive faces as opposed to unattractive faces. So it would make sense that his face would make the baby cry. Now, I'm not completely delusional and understand that he is making a face at the baby as well. And babies do cry at the most random things too. But I just wanted to touch on the point that our ability to judge facial attractiveness is mostly ingrained in our brain before we're even born, rather than attractiveness being societally determined, as some people think nowadays. We explored this topic more in the 2 videos that will be linked in the description. Another face I've selected for this category is Lesser Green, aka Beetlejuice. What makes him a 0 out of 10 is also very visible. I'm not going to run a whole analysis on his face to further prove that, but this gives you an idea of what a 0 out of 10 looks like. Next up, a 1 out of 10. For this rating, it was honestly really hard to find faces that accurately depict a 1 out of 10. Out of 1,000 faces, since it's the bottom 0.1%, a face in this category would be at the very bottom in terms of physical attractiveness. But here, you do step out of the range of deformities, but still have severe structural issues or extremely high body fat percentages. So here are the 2 examples that I've selected as a 1 out of 10. The first one is also commonly used in memes as the Discord mod. Realistically, if you line up 1,000 faces, this may be at the very bottom at facial attractiveness. I would say he comes closer to a 2 out of 10. So his true rating would be around this 1.5 or 1.75 out of 10, because he does have some features that are carrying him, like his eyebrows, his hairline, and lip thickness. But other than that, along with the high body fat percentage, pretty much everything else looks bad. The acne, the ungroomed beard, the eye shape, which is of course being distorted by the glasses. But that's what makes him a 1 out of 10. Most people who are a 1 out of 10 could become at least a 2 out of 10 by grooming only, and losing body weight would have the biggest impact, possibly even reaching a 3 out of 10 or higher. Next up are the 2 out of 10s. Here I selected this face. You might know this guy from the video Being Ugly, My Experience. So in the 2 out of 10 category, it's not necessarily an accident or some kind of medical condition causing the ugliness,
Right.
but more the underdevelopment of the facial bones, along with having bad features. If you look at his face, it's almost as if he has 0 good features. The previous guy, who was a 1 out of 10, did have some good features, but his body fat percentage knocked him down to a 1 out of 10. So this guy, his hairline is bad. The hair itself doesn't look healthy. He has no eyebrows, terrible teeth. His jaws are severely recessed. He has a thin neck, very pale looking skin color as well. But here it could be due to the lighting. So pretty much all of his facial features are bad. Luckily, since he had a huge amount of exposure, he did end up finding a wife, I believe, after 26 million people having watched his video. So that's good for him. He himself did say in the video that if you're in the same predicament, surgery is the only way to stop people treating you badly due to your looks. And before we move on, here are some more faces that would score a 2 out of 10 for
2 out of
reference.
10,
In this category,
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store preloaded.
The 3 out of 10s, we've got the following face, namely MMA fighter Raul Rosas. He looks like the guy from a 0 out of 10 who scares babies, but then without the severe deformities. Even if you look at the comments in the videos of him, you see a lot of them are about his face. instead of his fighting skills. Like people saying he has a face only a mother could love. I hope he doesn't see that I rated him a 3 out of 10 though, because he would smack the shit out of me. Or maybe he'd just say this. The reason he scores a 3 out of 10 is his severely recessed maxilla, which is also the reason why his nose looks like that and why he has an underbite. He looks like he'd be a great candidate for a 4-1 surgery, which moves the upper jaw forward. The reason he's not a 2 out of 10 is that he does have some good features, like the jawline visibility and his hair and healthy clear skin.
It's not that bad.
His eyebrows are also not bad, but also not good. This next face, who goes by the name Oreo Man or Savvy Guy, would also score a 3 out of 10. In his case, it's not a structural issue, but more because of his high body fat percentage. If he'd be at the same body fat percentage as Raul Rosas, he'd probably be a 4 or even 5 out of 10. If you put the faces next to each other, I would say that Oreo Man looks slightly more attractive, so his true rating would be closer to a 3.5. Fat people will most of the time end up in this category, depending on how fat, of course. So the 3 out of 10s also have either a structural issue or high body fat percentages, or maybe both. But having both would push you more to a 2 out of 10. For the 4 out of 10s, let's do an experiment. Take a look at this face. What rating would you give it out of 10 if the eyes are covered? While doing this experiment, I've heard different ratings. Some people saying 6 or 7 out of 10, but the shocker comes when you uncover his eyes. Even with the rest of his face looking good, the eyes instantly land him at a 4 out of 10. Sometimes you're only as attractive as your worst feature. He would be much better off having an average jaw, an average nose, and average eyes and eyebrows, rather than having some good features and one terrible feature. It could be just one facial feature that ruins the rest of your face when you're a 4 out of 10. So at the 4 out of 10 rating, we start to approach the more average kind of looking faces. Still somewhat ugly, but nothing too severe. Another example of a 4 out of 10 is Jay-Z. In his case, it's his long, narrow face. I understand that he's pushing 60 right now and used to look better when he was younger.
56.
But here I can make the point that you typically lose attractiveness the older you get. So don't believe the people telling you that men age like fine wine. There are some outliers like Brad Pitt, who looks better despite his age. But even he looked better when he was younger. If you want me to personally assess your face and tell you where you land on the look scale, you can check the link in the description where I'll give you a rating, an analysis of your good and bad features, facial measurements, and advise how you could improve. So if you're interested, you can head to my website. Next, 5 out of 10. This is the rating that most people get. And here's the face that I've selected for this tier. James from The Odd Ones Out. In his face, you can see that he's definitely not ugly, but not necessarily attractive either, which is exactly what a 5 out of 10 is. His best feature would be his eye area, though he appears to have some scleral show when his face is neutral. And his main flaw would be not enough bone mass in his face, while also not being lean enough to show the bone mass that he does have. His dimorphism, which means how masculine he looks, and his features also aren't good enough to score higher than a 5 out of 10. In this picture where he's grown a beard, he does start to look more masculine, which brings him closer to a 6 out of 10. So one way to be a 5 out of 10 is if all your features look average. Another way is if you have some very good features and some bad features, like this face, with a very good eye area, but a below average jaw. I'd argue that in the 5 out of 10 category, the most subjectivity comes into play. You'll have a portion of people agreeing with the face is a 4 or 6 out of 10. So in conclusion, a 5 out of 10 means you either have average features everywhere, or you have some 6 or 7 out of 10 features, along with some below average features. There are so many different ways to be a 5 out of 10 facially, as it's also the score that most people get. So as you might have noticed, the way this scale works is that it's a bell curve. Only giving someone a number without further explanation is not a good way to rate, which is where the percentile comes in. For example, the 50th percentile is exactly average, as we've seen, and the 99th percentile is a top 1%. In this scale, we chose 5 out of 10 as the exact average for looks, so top 50%, and every step from this rating is a step down on the bell curve. So a 4 out of 10 is bottom 25%, a 6 out of 10, top 25%, a 3 out of 10 is bottom 10%, and a 7 out of 10 is top 10%, and so on. While taking these steps, we'll eventually reach a 10 out of 10, which is extremely rare, But on the other side of the bell curve, a 0 out of 10 is also very rare. So that's the idea behind the bell curve. In this video, as I said before, I do not take into account decimal points like 5.75 out of 10 or 8.25 out of 10 for the sake of the length of the video. But I do mention it when I think it's necessary. Now let's go to the 6 out of 10s. In this tier, as a man, you might get occasional compliments about how you look, but it's usually not like, oh my god, this man is so hot. A good example is Aaron Paul. While he does have a good looking face objectively, he also has some flaws which bring him down to a 6 out of 10. His biggest and most notable flaw is his unbalanced facial thirds. His upper third is too large vertically, and while his jaw is angular and masculine, it ideally could be a bit larger in general, with a longer ramus and a bigger chin. Another 6 out of 10 face is Michael B. Jordan. Definitely an above average face, but lacking in forward growth and angularity, and his eyebrows could also be better. Next.
Oh,
7 out of 10. Now, if you're in this tier, you're actually attractive. I'll provide 2 examples of a 7 out of 10. First, we got Timothée Chalamet. His good features are that he has a very angular face that shows bone mass, along with his dark eyebrows and overall above average eye area. What stops him from being an 8 out of 10 is that his harmony is not ideal. For example, he has a very pointy chin rather than a square one, and he has a very short ramus. All of this makes him look more feminine. Now that I've given an example of a 7 out of 10 on the feminine end of the spectrum, here's a 7 out of 10 on the more masculine end. Anthony Joshua. His face is definitely not perfect, but the bone mass, forward growth, symmetry, and his features are all on point. Some flaws he has are having a bit of a longer mid-face, large interpupillary distance, and eyelid exposure. Now this is the tier of men that you'll start seeing women thirsting over them in the comments, like what happened with Luigi Mangione, who also scores a 7 out of 10.
Wow.
Now 8 out of 10. In this category, everything needs to be on point, but you still can have some minor flaws. You can't look as feminine anymore, like Timothée Chalamet, so you'll need good harmony, good features, and good dimorphism, which in this case is more masculinity. And the quote-unquote minor flaws in this category, since the face is already attractive, the flaws might even be seen as a good thing. For example, with Brad Pitt, whose flaw is slight negative eyebrow tilt, but since almost everything else in his face is ideal, the eyebrow tilt might even be seen as a good thing.
Right.
While in other tiers, this would be more detrimental to physical attractiveness. Same with Jeremy Meeks, who's bald and has sparse eyebrows, or Henry Cavill, with his large eye width to height ratio and eyelid exposure. And here are some more faces that can be considered an 8 out of 10. Next up, we've got 9 out of 10. So far, I've personally not given out this score through my face rating services. Maybe one of you can change that. But the fact that I've not given this score so far tells you how rare it is. You might see some people rating Henry Cavill as a 9 out of 10, but his hairline and eye area make that impossible, as they are considered flaws. In order to be a 9 out of 10, you can't have any minor flaws either anymore, let alone major flaws like balding or eye spacing. It's almost impossible to encounter a 9 out of 10 in real life. The first face that I've selected for this tier is Hernan Drago. To me personally, Hernan Drago always looked like Henry Cavill, with a better hairline and eye area. It's almost impossible to find a flaw in his face, which is exactly why he can be considered a 9 out of 10. While with 8 out of 10s, you can find 1 or 2 minor flaws. Another example of a 9 out of 10 is John Eric Hexam. Same story as Hernan Drago. And Louis Allen III can also be considered a 9 out of 10. Or maybe he would be an 8.5 out of 10. Next, a 10 out of 10. To be a 10 out of 10, you would need to be perfect in terms of literally everything. In videos like Face IQs, he shows this as a 10 out of 10, in which I hope he's joking. If you spend too much time on TikTok, you might think that this is a 10 out of 10. This barely even looks human, let alone the perfect human. While it was easier to find 0 out of 10 faces, because it's easier to have a lot of flaws, almost every deviation from the ideal lowers your score. But there's only one way to get it right. You can compare it to a chess game. In chess, in most positions, especially when you're out of the opening, there's often only 1 or 2 right moves that you can play, and anything else would instantly lose the game. There are hundreds of ways to do it wrong, but only a few ways to do it right, which is what makes chess so hard. Now, here's an AI generated face that I found while creating this video, which comes very close to a 10 out of 10. If you do know any true 10 out of 10 faces, you can drop a comment. So that was the whole ranking video. If you have any thoughts, you can leave a comment. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
You don't need a second job.
Video.
You just
Yeah. That was an interesting video. I mean, did he accurately rate the faces? I think Henry Cavill's 9. Yeah, objectively. Yeah. That was an interesting video, but I think Henry Cavill is a 9 objectively. But who's down? I mean,
As always, this disagreement happens between men and women. You think she's gorgeous. A woman says she's ordinary. Or the reverse, you think she looks okay, and women around you treat her like a beauty icon. This contradiction isn't random. It's not about taste. It's not about preference. It's the result of two fundamentally different psychological systems: the male system of evaluating beauty and the female system. Two systems so different that they may as well be from separate species. Today, we are dissecting one of the most intriguing and scientifically rich ideas in modern attractiveness research. Guy pretty versus girl pretty. A concept that went viral online, but is actually rooted in measurable biology, evolutionary signals, aesthetic psychology, and decades of research on facial processing and mate selection. By the end of this video, you will understand, at a scientific level, why men and women do not see beauty the same way. And you'll be able to predict, with remarkable accuracy, which type of attractiveness a woman belongs to. Prepare for a full breakdown of the 5 core differences that separate guy pretty from girl pretty, and the evolutionary logic behind each one. Before going further, if you want your full facial analysis with Kutsa's looksmaxing guide for yourself, join my Patreon. Link is given in the description. Also, if you want to message me, there is the link of Instagram given in the description. Section 1. Leanness and facial adiposity, a physiological divergence. Let's begin with a well-documented phenomenon in empirical research. Women prefer thinner female bodies and thinner female faces than men do.
right.
Multiple studies in evolutionary psychology and perceptual science show that both sexes prefer relatively slender figures. But women's ideal is significantly leaner, particularly in the hips, limbs, and facial adiposity levels. This difference is not subtle. It is robust and reproducible. Why does this matter? Because facial fat distribution dramatically shapes perceived femininity and youthfulness. Lower facial adiposity sharpens cheekbones, exposes bone contours, lengthens facial proportions, reduces roundness, creates a high fashion or editorial aesthetic. Higher, but still healthy, facial adiposity creates a softer midface, enhances perceived youth, rounds the cheeks, increases approachability, signals vitality. Women are more drawn to the angular, stylized appearance. Men are more drawn to the youthful, softer appearance. These preferences stem from two different psychological foundations. Women evaluate beauty through an aesthetic lens, valuing angularity and structural definition often associated with fashion, elite status, or sculpted features. Men evaluate beauty through a reproductive health lens, prioritizing signs of softness, fertility, and youth. This single physiological difference builds the foundation for the entire guy pretty versus girl pretty divide. Section 2. Presentation and framing, a cognitive processing difference. Here we shift from biology to perception. Human faces are not evaluated in isolation. They are evaluated through context, particularly visual framing. Research in media psychology shows that women are often portrayed in two radically different ways depending on the target audience. In media aimed at men, women are framed using pleasure-oriented cues, warm, inviting facial expressions, relaxed eyes and soft gazes, flattering lighting, compositions emphasizing curves,
Interesting.
warmer color palettes, non-threatening, open postures. These cues amplify evolutionary attractiveness markers.
Right.
Same woman, two presentations, two completely different attractiveness outcomes. This divergence is so strong that even AI facial rating systems show differences in scoring depending on expression intensity, framing angle, and posture, all variables that differ between male and female targeted media. Section 3. Conformity versus artistry, aesthetic signal processing. Women often favor aesthetic experimentation, while men gravitate towards stability and classical cues. This pattern emerges across cultural, computational, and evolutionary studies. Women admire unconventional haircuts, bold color changes, artistic makeup, fashion experimentation,
Yes.
unconventional silhouettes. Men admire classical long hair, neutral makeup, consistent presentation, simplified color schemes, symmetry-enhancing outfits. Why? Because these systems evolved for different reasons. Women use aesthetics to signal identity, creativity, and intersexual competitiveness.
Right.
Men rely on more instinctive evaluation, seeking signs of health, stability, and reproductively relevant traits. This is why a woman can undergo a bold style change and suddenly appeal far more to women, while men respond negatively or neutrally. Section 4. Facial maturity, age-related perceptual biases. Here's one of the most consistent findings across global attractiveness research. Men's attractiveness ratings peak in women aged roughly 20 to 24. Women's attractiveness admiration spans a much broader age range.
Wow.
Why women admire older women: aesthetic sophistication, confidence and social dominance, mastery of styling and presentation, emotional depth or charisma, expression of competence and independence. Why men focus on younger women: youth correlates with fertility, softer facial features signal hormonal balance, skin quality and collagen levels peak in early adulthood, neotenous cues amplify attractiveness through evolutionary pathways. This isn't a value judgment. It's a measurable difference in perceptual psychology. A woman can transition from guy pretty to girl pretty as she gains maturity, definition,
Right.
and stylistic evolution. Section 5. Facial androgyny, dimorphism preference split. This final difference is one of the most powerful. Men prefer feminine facial dimorphism. Women appreciate a broader spectrum, including mild masculinity in women, masculine-coded facial traits, stronger jawlines, pronounced brow ridges, deep-set eyes, sharper orbital rims, narrower lips. These features are striking, expressive, and carry strong aesthetic impact, making them highly admired among women. But men often prefer softer features: rounder eyes, fuller lips, lower brows, smoother contours, shorter, more juvenile facial proportions.
Right.
This again
I mean,
reflects evolutionary preferences versus aesthetic appreciation. Women admire beauty the way an artist admires sculpture, appreciating intensity, geometry, and extreme variation. Men admire beauty the way biology evolved them to, prioritizing signals of youth and reproductive fitness. The unifying theory: why this split exists. All 5 differences converge into one core explanation. Women evaluate beauty through an aesthetic, identity-based, expressive lens. Men evaluate beauty through an instinctive, fertility-based, evolutionary lens. Women's preferences borrow aspects of what they find attractive in men: maturity, angularity, confidence, structure. Men's preferences remain biologically anchored to classical femininity, youth,
Right.
softness, approachability.
That
These systems function independently. This is why two people can look at the same woman and see two completely different levels of attractiveness.
right. Alright. Yeah, that was a good video. Um, the interesting to see how men and women perceive women in terms of beauty and aesthetic standards, but like, and how men and women perceive men in terms of beauty and aesthetic standards. Yeah, I mean, everyone has their preferences. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but there are certain objective metrics that make a person beautiful and not beautiful. I mean, eye catching or whatever. But yeah, looks do matter, but like, looks do matter for sure. Yeah. Hey, how's it going? And to deny it is, well, I don't know what to say. To deny that looks matter, is that is true. Yeah, would be ignorant, but how to say it. In order to attain the looks that you desire, you have to work on yourself. You have to groom yourself properly. You have to take care of your health and your in all aspects of how to say it. All aspects of your, your presentation, your overall presentation, so that you may look attractive, right? Look, I mean, I'm not gonna say looks don't matter because they do. It's not the be all end all, but it's surely a huge component of female attraction, right? Right, yeah. Looks are more important than. I'm red pill, yeah. But I believe looks matter more than anything else, but like. Money does matter too. Status does matter too, but not as much. But not that much, but like somewhat. Yeah. For the most part, like looks. Oh, that's good. Yeah, doomerism is just terrible to follow. I mean, yeah, looks do matter, but not to the like. It's like money does matter, but not to the point where you just completely lose sense of who you are and or whatever. But looks do matter, but not to the point where you lose sense of who you are, your moral compass, or uh, more looks matter. Yeah, I'm red pill, but like I believe looks matter, right? Because Because it will make it much, much, much more easier for you to get a woman. Yeah. If you're good looking. If you're better looking than you were before, yeah. Red pill, yeah. There are toxic elements in the red pill, yeah. I'm red pill, but like, if someone disagrees with me, I'm not gonna argue though, because they have the right, the freedom to believe in whatever they want, I guess. But I mean, money does matter to some degree, status, but not that much, right? Because women aren't really attracted to that nowadays, anyways. But it's only just some. Yeah, it's not good to like. Well, women are good. Yeah, women are perfect for sure, but this is when we should be insulting anyone, man or woman, right? So. Fresh and fit and whatever. Yeah, that's good. Um, yeah. Yeah, not all red pill. Right, right. Yeah, some do like Myron. Myron, when it, I mean, like, you can call out the thing about the red pill podcasts. They're allowed to call out other people, but I think bullying people is taking it a step too far, right? If you bully people, you're just taking it too far, right? Calling people out is okay. Retaliation is okay. Attacking people isn't. Yeah. At least, yeah. You shouldn't just randomly attack people. They take it too far. Yeah. I mean, they're allowed to call people out, man or woman, but to bully people, I don't think that's gonna take them any far. Right? So, making people accountable is okay. Bullying people, I think that's a terrible thing to do, but uh, what comes first, looks or height? That's a tough question. Um, both are important in the female attraction. In terms of like overall looks, both are important. Yeah, I can't really say Both are important. Different women say different things. Yeah, let's just say it's a hard question to answer, but different women say different things about that. But both are important. Yeah. Personality is like depends. Women are attracted usually to like men who have a spine. Let's just say men who are pushovers have a spine to the at the very least, right? Good men, they're attracted. They will be attracted to a good man as long as they're not a pushover, right? They know how to stand up for themselves, but they're good people. They're attracted to that, but not. But they're mostly attracted to bad boys and bad men or degenerates. But unfortunately, because I don't know, maybe has something to do with how they're raised or whatever. But I think for the most part, if you have a spine as a man, but are good, whether you're good or bad, but you have a spine, that's what they'll be attracted to. Yeah, you're able to stand up for yourself. Yeah, looks come first. Yeah, it'll make it much more easier. Some people say looks don't matter, but I think that it's the looks that really carry them when they get women. Yeah, if you're good looking, you get women much more easily, for sure. It's better to be good looking than not good looking, right? So yeah. I was a bit tired at the beginning of the stream, but why? Right. You can be a jerk, be good looking to get a woman, you can be a good man, be not good looking, not get woman. That is true, yeah. Uh, that is true. That is true, yeah. That is true, yeah. It's a combination of both personality and looks, right? Women like bad men because it really, how to say it, their personalities really thrill them, but they also like attractive men because that is what allures they find attractive men alluring, I guess. Just like men find personalities the most interesting. Yeah, personality matters somewhat. Yeah, I mean, women want men to lead them, but they want the right kind of man to lead them, right? Uh, uh, Presence is a myth too, bro. Interesting. Confidence. I mean, interesting. Interesting. I don't have anything to say about that, but I don't think. If anything, be confident for yourself and not for women, because women won't appreciate your confidence as much. They'll appreciate you having a spine, which is a form of confidence, but yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Be confident for yourself, yeah. Not for women, but like because women don't really care. They care mostly about your looks and mostly your looks, yeah. Mostly, not all, like everything. Like for me, it's like 60% looks, right? Because women want to be approached by a man, usually, right? So as long as they're somewhat, women don't care about confidence. Right, that's true, but you, I mean, like women, most of the time, women don't approach men anyways. So there's that. Women don't really approach men, so most of the time, like if you were to statistically narrow it down, it'd be like 98% of the time, women don't approach men. Like 2% of the time they do, right? So because they're attractive enough, right? Uh, yeah, they don't really care about confidence as too much. Yeah. If they do, it's very minimal, right? The amount they care about like being confident and macho or whatever, they don't really care about that. Although if you want to be confident, do it for yourself. Like you said, yeah. Oh, he's a Canadian model. He's a Canadian model, yeah. I think he lives in Miami, according to his Instagram, but anyways. Canadian model. Yeah. From Toronto. Good looking guy, yeah. Oh, okay, that's fine, yeah. It's not like super he's good looking, but he's not like super famous, but he's famous, but not like super anyways. He's good looking for sure, yeah. Oh, um, that's fine. John Cena, 2005. Yeah, John Cena in 2005 was pretty good. Dolph Ziggler, 2010. I'm not sure about Dolph Ziggler 2010, but John Cena 2005 was pretty good. Yeah, pretty over OP. Yeah, overpowered. Yeah, let's just say. Mogs. Or or who has better looks? Probably Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, Dolph Ziggler was better looking, sort of slightly. Yeah, slightly. I think so. I think you're right. Yeah. Dolph Ziggler's pretty good looking. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, Randy Orton was pretty good. Yeah. Randy Orton. Yeah. 7 to 7.5. Yeah. Good. Yeah, around there. Good looking guy. Mr. He's good looking. Somewhat. Yeah, somewhat. Mr. Yeah, he's good looking. When he doesn't have his mask on, yeah. Shawn Michaels is 98, 1998. He was okay. He was good looking, yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. 92. Yeah. I would say so, yeah. Shawn Michaels, it was confusing, yeah. His rating, yeah. It was decent, yeah. It was decently good looking, but I don't know how I would rate him. Alright. That's true, yeah. Shawn Michaels is pretty decent looking, yeah. Good looking, above average. Yeah. No, Shawn Michaels, yeah. Yeah. Do I remember the Attitude Era? Yeah, I do. No, I haven't watched it, but I do remember there being an Attitude Era, yeah. And it was very prominent back in the day, yeah. Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Kurt Angle, yeah, Kurt Angle, Steve Austin, Triple H, Kane, uh, Big Show, what's his other characters? US or Intercontinental is a bit higher, yeah. US is pretty. Was it just the championship or was it championship? I don't know. But the Intercontinental Championship is a bit higher in rank. Jeff Hardy, John Morrison, Jeff Hardy, Mysterio, Chris Jericho used to hold it, yeah. The Intercontinental Championship. I think they're equal rank. I don't know. Equal rank or intercontinental is a bit higher in rank. Yeah. Both are equal. Both are equal, yeah. Both are equal in rank, yeah. Both are equal in rank, yeah. Uh, anyways, both are equal in rank, yeah. Anyways, I have to go. I'm a bit tired from that. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Peace.